In the previous session, we introduced an economic system designed to meet the objectives embodied in the guiding principle of our emerging economics of fulfillment ideology. Our model may have been intriguing. It may have even sounded reasonable on paper, but how could such a free and self-regulated approach to economic activity work in the real world? This is Session 7, Feasibility, in a course titled Economics of Fulfillment, and that is an aspect of a larger view, evolution of consciousness theory. In this session, we explore the viability of our economic model, as thus far developed. We begin with two questions that by now most of us have asked, and that sum up the difficulty people have understanding how our economic model will work. First, what, in our economics of fulfillment system, would keep one person from buying up everything in the economy and running a huge negative balance at the bank? Second, what, in our system, would keep someone from sitting in front of the television all day and not contributing to the economy? In today's global economy, economic systems function under a Darwinian, scarcity-based understanding of the world, expressed through our use of and the value we place on money. We assign almost every transaction a monetary value. Money is the lifeblood of our existence. When the flow of money in our lives is interrupted, the consequences are devastating. In today's world, money is the overriding human motivation. We see this in divisions of power and wealth, in excesses of consumption, and in political decisions that value economic interests over human interests. Money defines our place in the human community. Money is how we determine who is fit to be a member of the human community. Today's global economy is driven by money. But the world of today is not the world that will exist hours, days, weeks, months, and years from now. Central to the transformation of our world is the threshold to meaning. From a practical standpoint, meaning is the point when we realize that our way of life is not set in stone. It is the instant when we open ourselves to the possibility that we can move beyond old ways of doing things and create a better world. At the moment we embrace meaning, or at least at the moment when we become aware of meaning and direct our lives toward its realization, we no longer frame our existence in the external, materialistic terms school and society have driven into our consciousness. If we were to implement our economics of fulfillment system for the people of today, nothing would prevent one person from buying up everything and running a huge negative bank account balance. Similarly, nothing would prevent us from devoting our lives to the soap operas. Our economic system could not function if its members saw themselves as locked in a competition for material wealth, or if its members placed a value on doing nothing and not contributing to the human endeavor. Some would fight to be the one who came out on top. Others would be content to live off of the economy. Accumulation of wealth, consumption for the sake of consumption, and retirement for the sake of retirement, however, are not values we are born with. They are values we are taught. They are not intrinsic to our nature as created beings, but are ingrained in our psyche by the dynamics of scarcity-based economics. We are autonomous beings, but we are not by nature lazy or greedy beings. Our economics of fulfillment system is not for the people of today. By virtue of the threshold to meaning, it is for the people we are today, becoming. To further explore the feasibility of our economics of fulfillment model, it would be useful to contrast two elements of economic behavior common to scarcity-based ideology and to economics of fulfillment ideology, but that in each system of beliefs mean something different. Competition and cooperation. In today's socialist capitalist economic framework, competition is the value we embrace that it is acceptable to have winners and losers. It is the notion that not all members of the human community are entitled to a decent life. Economic competition is the imposition of Darwin's mechanism of natural selection onto the social order, our version of survival of the fittest. So ingrained is our notion of economic competition, and so profound is its impact on our lives, that it shapes our understanding of cooperation. In a scarcity-based economy, cooperation takes place in two ways. It is imposed through government, or through some regulatory body, to fulfill what one or another political faction deems a social need. A government entitlement program compels citizens to fund a retirement system, health care plan, or other social program. Cooperation also takes place when members of the economy align to compete against other members. A company or corporation is a group of people who merge their talents to compete with another company or corporation. In our economics of fulfillment economy, we also compete, but not for profit, market share, or other contrived measure of success. Like the athlete who strives for a faster time or a better score, we compete to better ourselves. We compete to thrust our work to higher levels of innovation and achievement. Our builder strives to make each house better than his last. The reach for personal betterment has a remarkable outcome. Unlike in a scarcity-based world, competition does not force cooperation. Competition manifests in cooperation. As in a sport team, individual betterment nurtures betterment of the whole. Our builder strives to improve his personal standards, and by doing so, to raise the standards of the building industry. In an economics of fulfillment world, individual betterment brings forth betterment of the economy in its totality. In our economics of fulfillment system, no one is left behind. There are no winners and losers, haves and have-nots. Should this not be what an economy is about? Should not an economy be an exchange of resources to meet human needs? Greater individuality, a greater sense of self and purpose, and not capitalistic ideals of wealth, or socialistic ideals of uniformity and central control, create a more cooperative society. The last point we need to discuss, concerning the feasibility of our economic system, is efficiency. In a scarcity-based economic system, economists define efficiency as the ability to get the most out of an economic activity by putting in the least, measured in dollars. A business that employs the minimum number of workers needed to manufacture a product is said to run more efficiently than one that refuses to lay off workers. The additional labor cost leads to a higher cost of production. This decreases profit and threatens a company's competitive position. The same idea of efficiency applies to the economy as a whole. During the 1990s, politicians held up the United States economy as a model for the world. In that decade, the productivity of the American worker soared. The worker spent more hours on the job and produced greater output for proportionately lower wages. In this respect, efficiency relates to employment. An economy where every member is employed is said to maximize output. In measure, fiscal and monetary policy are devoted to keeping unemployment figures low, and thus to minimizing their political fallout. Fundamentally, the dollars in and dollars out measure of economic efficiency does not embrace the value of the human being and the variable of human motivation. A worker at a firm may be motivated to perform out of fear of job loss and the threat to survival job loss represents, but this motivation is not intrinsic to the task at hand. Can a person who works for a subsistence-level paycheck make more or better things than a person whose work is his or her passion? Similarly, when a person has a job, his or her name does not show up on the unemployment roster. You are employed or not. Unemployment figures do not consider the relationship between the job and the employee's abilities. As it is said, how many people with advanced degrees make their living mopping floors? An efficient economy is not one that generates the greatest capital output with the least capital input. It is not an economy that has a contrived measure of zero unemployment. An efficient economy exists when every member of the economy has the freedom to devote his or her creative energy to the fullest extent of his or her abilities. This is true productivity. This is what efficiency means. By virtue of freedom, an economics of fulfillment system does what socialism and capitalism cannot, self-regulate to optimal efficiency. When we maximize individual freedom, we maximize economic output. At the most basic level, justification for our economics of fulfillment philosophy lies in the evolution of consciousness view of the universe. It rests on our acceptance of who we are as human beings, on the value we assign to ourselves as individuals, and on the responsibility for our economic activities this value embodies. As the human being evolves to greater autonomy, social organization evolves to less collective forms. Society becomes increasingly free, increasingly dominated by the needs and aspirations of the individual. In socialism and capitalism, a ruling elite, empowered by law and capital, control our economic behavior. In economics of fulfillment, we, the individual, control our economic behavior. Economic interaction reflects humankind's level of evolutionary development. In evolution of consciousness theory, not only is economics of fulfillment a feasible economic philosophy. As we enter the universe's age of fulfillment, it is, in some form, an inevitable economic philosophy. If we had a choice, would we live under socialism, capitalism, or economics of fulfillment? What economic framework would allow us to live in the most meaningful way? With this introduction to economic feasibility, we complete session 7 in our course titled Economics of Fulfillment. Next, we put our economic ideology into practice. This, in turn, will solidify the economics of fulfillment concept. Our course on the economics of tomorrow continues in session 8, Implementation.